Hi, we are about to go on an exciting learning journey. We are going to be studying the history of the state of Louisiana and how it came to join the United States of America. In this video, you will learn about the events leading up to the purchase of the Louisiana Territory by the United States, when it was such a young and much smaller country. Be sure to have your handout and something to write with while you watch this video. What is history? History is the events and people from the past. When we study history, we are learning about events and people from a time before our own. Understanding history helps us understand more about how the world works today. One way to grow a deeper understanding of history is to look at a timeline. It's a way to picture time in your mind. A timeline shows the events that happened during a certain time in history and how those events are connected to each other. Here is a timeline of important dates that will help you better understand the Louisiana Territory. Let's look at them in chunks. We will learn a bit about each date in the circle, then answer some questions before we move on to the next chunk of the timeline. First, let's focus on the events from 14,000 years ago to 1699. 14,000 years ago, the only people living in the area that eventually became the Louisiana Territory were Native Americans. Many of them settled in what is now the lower Mississippi Valley, where you can see the red star on the map. Land was claimed by different Native American tribes. The Frenchmen, Louis Joliet and Jacques Marquette, explored the Mississippi River from the north and determined that it must run into the Gulf of Mexico in the south. From the south, ships could travel from the Gulf of Mexico to the Atlantic Ocean. The area in black that later becomes the United States was not a country at this time in history. There were no states or cities as we know them today. Other countries, including France, began to explore this land area. The French were one of the first countries to find interest in this land, particularly in the southeast coast, which is highlighted in yellow. In 1682, a French explorer, La Salle, arrived in the area. Remember, no one officially owned any of this area. So he claimed the mouth of the Mississippi River for France, which means he took it for the country he was from. He named it Louisiana after King Louis of France. The mouth of the river means the end of the river that connects with a larger body of water, in this case, the Gulf of Mexico. France's presence in this new land continued to expand as colonists, or people leaving their home country for life in a new place, came in greater numbers. In 1699, René Guillen de Laudonnière settled in what is now Florida. The French colonists' ability to trade with other countries multiplied with every port that they claimed. This is important because it was the first time France had a hold on this part of the world. Let's think about some questions related to this part of the timeline. Who settled in the lower Mississippi Valley 14,000 years ago? Why was the Mississippi River important to the French explorers? And what did La Salle's claim of the mouth of the Mississippi River mean? Pause this video to record your answers to the questions about this part of the timeline that are on your handout at the first stop sign. Then hit play when you are ready to continue. Let's go over the answers to the questions. 1. Who settled in the lower Mississippi Valley 14,000 years ago? Native Americans settled in the lower Mississippi Valley because no one owned the land at this time. Number 2. Why was the Mississippi River important to the French explorers? They discovered that the Mississippi River connected the north to the Gulf of Mexico. And number 3. What did La Salle's claim of the mouth of the Mississippi River mean? La Salle's claim of the mouth of the Mississippi River meant France controlled trade for that whole area. So far, you've learned about how the French came to gain interest and settle in the Louisiana Territory. Now let's continue to see how this land gained interest from others. We will now move along the timeline to look at the frame of 1718 until 1763. Let's take a quick look at the boundaries of the land controlled by France in the 1700s. A boundary is a line that marks the limits of an area. The boundaries of this territory were loose at this point in history, but we know the French territory stretched west of the Mississippi River, east of the Rocky Mountains, and south all the way to the Gulf of Mexico. In 1718, New Orleans was made an official town for trading valuable goods like furs, tobacco, and indigo, which was used to dye things blue like fabric. So from that time on, people across the Southeast knew they could trade what they had to get what they needed. After New Orleans was named a town for trading, it was named the capital of the Louisiana Territory by the French in 1722. The capital of a territory means that the government system is housed in that area. By this time, there were lots of different people across this vast land area. The Native Americans, the British American colonists, the French, the Spanish, and the British all wanted to control this valuable land. In 1754, war broke out between France and Great Britain. This war was called the 7 Years' War and the French and Indian War. The French and Native Americans joined forces to fight the British colonists who lived outside of the French Louisiana Territory. They were fighting for control of this vast area of land. The French and Indian War was part of a larger war between France and Britain, the 7 Years' War, that actually lasted for 9 years. This was a tense time because so many different groups of people were fighting to control the Louisiana Territory. In 1762, knowing Spain lost the area of Florida to Great Britain in the war, France gave Spain both New Orleans and the land west of the Mississippi River for its help in the 7 Years' War. This area is shown in yellow on the map and was known as the Louisiana Territory. At this point in history, Great Britain owned all of the land in green and was a very powerful country. Just a year after France gave away this valuable territory to Spain, the fight between France and Great Britain ended. They signed the Treaty of Paris in 1763, which ended the war. But remember, Spain was now in control of the Louisiana Territory, not France. France anticipated losing the war and wanted to keep Great Britain from gaining any power with more land. Let's think about a few questions now. What would a country gain by having access to the port? Why did France give the Louisiana Territory to Spain? Pause this video to record your answers to the questions about this part of the timeline that are on your handout at the second stop sign. Then hit play when you're ready to continue. Let's go over the answers to the questions. 1. What would a country gain by having access to the port? A country would gain access to goods for trading and the Gulf of Mexico. 2. Why did France give the Louisiana Territory to Spain? France gave the Louisiana Territory to Spain to thank them for their help in the war and to keep Great Britain from gaining more land and power. Now you understand the timeline of the Louisiana Territory from 14,000 years ago to 1763. You will use this new knowledge in class as you learn more about the Louisiana Purchase and how Spain and France were involved. When you stop this video, be sure to turn in your handout to your teacher.